to wait like 2 minutes or whatever. Right?
Yeah, we're supposed to do 2 minutes in. Okay.
All right.
I'm ready when you are, sir.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Broadcasting from the churn, that guy is the returning Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
I'm back and better than ever. Alive and well.
I mean, I believe that you're back.
I'm back. And if you'd
I'm
like
not
to
even
hear
convinced
a
on that
tale
yet.
of woe, if you're like, dude, what is the behind the tape realities of pod therapy, go down to patreon.com/therapy. And for as little as $1, you can listen to Jim just whine.
You can hear it. You can hear the new Patreon segment. Jim's a whiny bitch.
Yeah.
It needs a drop. Justin.
But I do have to say, though, if you go there looking for answers, you're not going to find answers.
No.
You're just going to find whining.
Yeah. Just rampant complaining. So we got a full show today, man. A lot of exciting things to go over.
We do.
And we got some mail. What came in the mailbag for us, Nick?
We got something from Frozen 49.
She lives in Alaska, which is part of America. A lot of people don't know that, but it is. And it's actually the largest state of the 50 states of the United States of America.
Excellent stalling.
Yeah.
That was perfect amount of time for me to open the
I'm a
envelope.
pro. I'm a pro.
We have we've got
Ooh,
cards.
are they tarot cards?
Yeah.
Nice. Are they Valentine's?
Yeah.
Oh,
not tarot cards.
They're Valentine's.
Oh, that's cute. What do they say?
You can always count on my Valentine. And it's got I would say a centipede, probably not a millipede.
That feels right. Yeah,
Centipede.
that's a centipede.
That's to Jim.
Oh,
so there you go.
Creepy crawly
And
Valentine.
You got a little.
Ooh, is that a rub-on sticker thing?
It is.
Ooh,
so you got a sticker.
I got a centipede tattoo. She does
And then-
tend to do this. She sent me tattoos from Alaska once, and I gave myself a tramp stamp. It was pretty glorious.
Oh, those are permanent.
Oh, shit. Luckily, I haven't showered.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
They are permanent if you don't shower.
Yeah. I've noticed it isn't going anywhere.
And then she got me one. I dig our friendship. Happy Valentine's Day. And it's got a whole bunch of worms on it. And then I got a little
super nice.
a worm sticker. Thank you
Very
much.
cool. Well, we always love having mail sent to us, and so
When she sent them to us, it was $20 for each of us in there too. Is there not cash in yours?
that's weird. Yeah, no, mine.
Strange.
Yeah, well.
It's almost like since it was delivered to you and then it was open already, that
yeah.
maybe there. I don't know.
Maybe that little heart sticker
it's a
wasn't
mystery.
the way that she closed
Where's
it.
Sherlock Holmes when you need him, huh?
We'll have to figure this out. But we have a new sponsor of Pod Therapy, a new corporate partner that we're super excited to introduce to everybody. And they even have a cool little code to throw in. That's finally us being supported. Look at us, Nick. We're big boy podcasting now.
What's
with
the company's name?
sponsors.
It is Premium Jane.
Premium
Jane.
JJ.com. That jingle's for free, Premium Jane. There you go.
Are you having trouble with anxiety at night?
I do have trouble with anxiety at night.
Well, you're not alone. A third of Americans have trouble sleeping on a regular basis. And can you blame them?
No, I
Neither
don't.
can I. And it can be challenging to turn your brain off at times, especially with what's going on. There is, however, some hope, and it comes in the form of a plant.
Plant?
Premium Jane is a U.S.-based CBD company
I like CBD.
offering incredible natural products like oils, topicals, capsules, gummies, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
If you've been searching for a product to help support your sense of calm and to promote healthy sleep cycles, Premium Jane is for you.
Well, how do we get it, Nick?
Go to premiumjane.com and save 20%
20%!
on your first order by using the coupon code PodTherapy. That's premiumjane.com, 20% using the coupon code.
Or Groupon.
Pod
Therapy.
One
And
word
Pod
or two
Therapy,
words?
It's all one
All one
word.
word.
No
There you go.
space.
No space.
PodTherapy. Pod Therapy. Go to Premium Jane. .com. And, a couple of quick thoughts on this company. We looked them over. We definitely went through their website and what they're offering, and they're sending us samples. We're super excited about it. This I like because, again, the marijuana industry, I think, has opened up a lot of new doors. We're learning about hemp now and all the practical uses for hemp. And CBD, for those of you who don't know much about this, this is not your typical THC marijuana product. This is not getting people high. This is not what that does. This is an herbal supplement that comes out of the marijuana plant. It has no cognitive effect on people, besides many people reporting that CBD is soothing. And so, it's a good cream, a topical ointment. It reduces inflammation. A very common supplement, especially here in Southern Nevada. We see it all the time. There's actually a store right next to that Popeyes where we all get our chicken all the time. So Premium Jane is a hand-in-glove sponsor. It's great that they care.
Well, I think the one next to the Popeyes is a THC dispensary.
Don't go to that one. Premium Jane, premiumjane.com. And we're super grateful that they decided to support mental health. So thank you, Premium Jane. Thank you for caring about our little show and wanting to help. We appreciate your support.
This morning, I was thinking, I need to get something. This is real. I was thinking, I need to get something to help me sleep through the night.
Okay.
Because I'm waking up in the middle of the night and having trouble getting back to sleep. I think I'll give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Yeah. There
you go.
That kind of stuff really helps. For me, melatonin made a big difference. I sleep through the night now. But now I will go explore the options at premiumjane.com, and I will type in Pod Therapy, all one word, at checkout, and I'll net my 20%. So
there you go.
Thank you, friends at Premium Jane. We also have the first question of today's show, which is a good one. I've actually been wanting to talk about this for a while, so it's really cool that this came in. The question is titled, OnlyFans and Mental Health. Hello, Pod Therapy. I was looking at videos about mental health and OnlyFans. What is your opinion about this? OnlyFans is basically a platform for content creators, mostly selling explicit videos and pictures. I don't understand why you would pay for a subscription to have websites, when there are websites out there that are free. One thing the video I was watching pointed out is that with those free websites, you do not have the communication part. When you get a subscription to OnlyFans, you can communicate with the model or the content creator. So my question to you guys is, do you think OnlyFans is capitalizing on loneliness? Are people becoming addicted to the connection on the platform and being taken advantage of? Thanks, Zach.
Okay.
First part of the question, are people capitalizing on loneliness? Yes.
That seems... Yes. That is clearly
I don't know that there's anything wrong with that, but yes.
Yeah, they're filling a niche.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing, too, as far as, capitalizing. Everybody selling something or has a business is capitalizing on something.
Right.
And it's almost always going to be some sort of deficit or something that you don't have.
Right? By the way,
that's the whole idea.
Meeting a market need.
You could definitely say that having a podcast is capitalizing on loneliness.
I could see that.
Yeah, like you could say the same thing about publishing a podcast.
I mean, other podcasts.
And you know what else capitalizes on loneliness?
A general podcast.
Yes.
Right.
Not a therapy podcast.
No.
But, if
That's
you are
obviously
feeling
needed.
lonely, if you're lonely today, go to premiumjane.com.
And you can take a nap.
You can sleep off that loneliness.
Nobody feels lonely when they're taking a nap.
Type in Pod Therapy at checkout.
So actually, did you watch the video? I found the video that he's referring to.
Yeah, I'm aware of that guy, and I kind of glimpsed at it. I think this question comes off in two different parts. So I think the first part is the audience, and so the conversation could be about, hey, what is the mental health of this audience that's partaking in this? Is addiction a factor? Can this become a difficult thing in somebody's life? Or maybe it's a good thing. Parse that out. And I think the second discussion is about the content creators. Right. I have, in this year, worked as a therapist with so many models and actresses who have taken their work to OnlyFans and done remarkably well for themselves. And it has really given me a glimpse into their reality and what it's like. And I'd like to speak about that in depth because I think that there's a lot there to discuss.
I have several friends that have
a lot
gone
of
onto
people
OnlyFans.
Have. Yeah. So I do think that there's a partition on both sides. So I'll start with the content creators because I think that's pretty interesting. So like I said, a lot of folks have jumped over there. I think that as a social concept, OnlyFans, in its incredible popularity, I think I'm great with, in a sense, because there's a lot of actresses who used to work for these companies, right? And so now they're not having to work for production companies. They're not having to get caught up in film and all this extra layers. They're just going direct. They're going direct to their own customers. They're trading on their own names. They're keeping all the money. And that's good.
Well, no, they're not keeping all of it.
Well, right. There's a service fee for OnlyFans.
It's a 20% cut, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but these people, these actresses and these models, I'm seeing them get, in some cases, wealthy. In some cases, they are creating life-changing wealth in the span of 12 months. And that's wonderful, because at the end of the day, I like that these humans are empowered to do their own work. They're doing it in a safe way. They can't be hurt, and so there's this firewall. And
by the way, a 20% cut, I think you're right. I think it is 20%.
Yeah.
A 20% cut is consistent. You always know what it's going to be, which is not always the case in other avenues.
Yeah,
Oh,
and they
that's true.
don't have to
That's a
pay,
good point.
all these extra layers of stuff. They're creating their own businesses where they're hiring their own cinematographers and their own wardrobe people. So it's really exciting, I think, for them. A lot of them are doing really good work with it. It's also been very interesting how it's affected them mentally, because it's so much more personal. They're used to going on set, filming a scene, or doing their poses or whatever, if they're a print model or whatever, and leaving, and then never interacting with the audience directly until there's like a conference or something specific. They never interact with the audience. In this new reality, that's the whole selling point of OnlyFans, is you can interact with the content creators. So these actresses, these models, they are literally getting direct messages from audience members, and they're interacting with them. And that's been difficult. And as their therapist, I've worked through some stuff with them about boundary setting with these people, creating safety, and also the human connection. Because on one hand, and a lot of them, these models and actresses are telling me how much they're struggling, because on one hand, they want to be genuine and authentic with the audience. That's very good, not just for business, but they're naturally that person.
Right.
But then it becomes difficult because the fan can bond too much and can create the simulated relationship that very quickly, I mean, again, these fans are not going to murder people, but it's a very thorny situation.
Well,
also, if you'd
in
like
the
to hear
video-
some irony, you should go back and listen to this Patreon episode. Just think about the things that Jim just said.
Right now, pause what you're doing.
And just go back and listen to the pre-show in Patreon. It's
Listen to
$1.
Jim.
Throw $1 at the Patreon. Go listen to it, and you're just gonna
Your head
laugh
will
hysterically.
explode. Yeah, that's right.
Well, okay, so in the video, this I'm not sure he's a doctor, but I'm not sure his degree. But
This
he's a
is
therapist.
a YouTube guy.
He's a
His
therapist.
name's Dr. Grande.
Yeah, he did talk about a situation where someone was murdered, but that was kind of from the perspective of the subscriber,
Right.
because one of the issues that happens with this is because they model this system as very intimate. Okay, it's not me in a video.
Right.
It's me actually interacting with you.
Yes.
And when you do that with some individuals that have a history of isolation, of poor boundary issues, or things like that, they start to see this relationship as it being an intimate relationship, as opposed to it being a business interaction or a business relationship. That's where it becomes a little dicey.
Yes.
For the example that he used in this video, it wasn't from OnlyFans, but it was from a different website kind of doing the same thing, where this guy really kind of saw this woman as his girlfriend, his internet girlfriend,
Right.
ended up stealing a whole bunch of money from his family, and then ended up killing his family.
Oh, wow.
So there's a whole lot of issues there underlying
Sure.
way before you get to this point of this website. But one of the issues that I do kind of take, because going back to the content creator side,
Right.
one of the issues that I did take with the video was that he did talk about that research has demonstrated a link between sex working and mental health symptoms, such as substance use, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder.
And that's for people who are sex workers or people who frequent sex workers?
Who are sex workers. Okay. However, the problem that I've got with that is I don't have the answer to that right now. I don't even know what studies he's talking about.
Sure.
It doesn't surprise me.
Sure.
But what I would want to know is I'd want to dig in a little bit deeper as to kind of the chicken or egg thing.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of research out there. I know this because I've seen it, that there is research out there supporting, adverse childhood experiences and sex work correlating strongly.
Okay, yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that sex work is causing these issues.
Right.
It could very well just be that sometimes they go through adverse childhood experiences, and then the sex work industry then sometimes becomes easier to get into or more enticing, or for whatever reason seems to fit. So you can't really say it goes one way or the other way.
Right.
So that was one issue that I kind of took with the video that Zach's referring to.
Yeah, I think that's... So I guess...
Well, it's not going to be a cut and dry thing.
It's
Exactly.
not. And just to clarify for the general audience, so OnlyFans is a website/app, and what you're getting as a viewer, as an audience member, you're getting generally pornography. You're getting videos, you're getting pictures, and then you're getting these special action sessions in some cases, if that's something the creator offers. So when we say sex work, we need to make sure we're helping you know, listener, we're talking about the broadest possible umbrella for that.
Right.
Yeah, we don't just mean prostitution.
No,
Right,
we do not
right,
mean prostitution at a brothel. We mean anything that involves selling sexuality, which could be an Instagram model and an influencer in a sense. So that's true too. Which, by the way, that has been a huge disruption that's happened in the OnlyFans creator community. Instagram cracked down. And so I have some creators that had just millions of followers on Instagram, and that's what they would use. They were they were a celebrity in real life. They decided to take their fame to OnlyFans and get paid directly, and that's great. But then Instagram, once they realized that they were linking to their OnlyFans, Instagram murdered their accounts and just didn't give it back, which is tremendous loss of income. So it's still this very taboo thing in society, even though it's just selling these pictures directly and like, being a model. There's a lot there. So in the first half of the conversation, when it comes to the content creator and mental health, yes, these humans are going through, I think, a very unique dynamic. They're trying to navigate how to be genuine and warm and appealing to people while also creating healthy boundaries with the audience. And sometimes what's happening to a person, all of my content creators have told me that a lot of their fans, typically men, are reaching out to them and starting to bond so much that they're starting to share about their own emotional struggles or their own, relational difficulties. And that's put a lot of these content creators in a very difficult position of being like, oh, wait, this was supposed to be flirty and fun. This is becoming therapy.
Yeah.
And it's been this interesting dynamic where I've actually had one creator say, is there a way that we can do a crossover where somehow you can do a PSA and steer some of these people that are suffering into help? And I was like, no, I cannot appear on my patient's OnlyFans.
You ever watch South Park?
I've seen it.
Okay. There was one episode where Stan's girlfriend breaks up with him, so to cheer him up, they take him to Raisins.
Okay.
Which is the equivalent of Hooters.
Oh, okay.
But it's kids.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh,
no. But so the character Butters,
Uh-huh.
The waitress comes up and she's all flirty with him and everything like they would normally be. Except he doesn't understand the dynamic. He doesn't get what's going on.
Right.
He doesn't understand that the Hooters waitress isn't really into you.
Exactly.
Yes.
So then he thinks oh, this is my girlfriend. And he starts calling her at work.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, darling, how you doing? And he's like, oh, yeah, this is my girlfriend. So then he brings his parents there to meet
her.
his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And it's just...
He's
it's
going
that,
far down the rabbit hole.
Exactly. It's that type of thing where it's like... If both parties don't understand what's really happening here, it can become it blurs the lines and it can become very sometimes very dangerous.
Well, I mean, I have friends and I have one. I haven't talked to her in quite a while, but I'd still call her a friend who at least used to be a prostitute, and then I have several friends that are strippers that are exotic dancers. And yeah, I mean, this
happens
just
all the time.
Yeah, for people in that industry who have been in that industry for years, I think that they're just laughing at people like your client and going yeah, of course.
Right.
They're going yes,
this is what was always happening.
I could have told you this would happen a million times out of a million times.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. And so the Butters in the equation, I want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
The person, which okay, let's just paint in broad colors for the sake of the conversation. It's usually a man, okay, and so they're usually the partaker. And I think it's
Intangible.
yeah, that's
not big enough. That's not big enough. Sorry. Let's call him Nick T.
Yeah, Nicky T. Nicky T from Iowa. You know what? Let's change that. Idaho. There, nobody will get it.
Potato farmer
extraordinaire. I think it's an interesting thing, and this is where there's been times where I've worked with my content creators where we talk through this, because it is very fashionable to laugh at the man in the equation. Oh, he doesn't get it. He's the butt of the joke. He thinks it's for real. And I guess I don't love that attitude, because I think we as humans need to appreciate and reflect on the human intrinsic need to feel valuable and to feel bonded with another human. And that's the thing. Like, I've had lots of exotic dancers over the years working in Las Vegas who have told me about their strategy and how they make good money. And it's a very fine line for them morally. Mm-hmm. Because they realize I'm really bonding with some of my customers. They may, in the back of their mind, know that we're not official and like, I am just working here. I am acting for you. But that is a very blurry reality, you know? And so they do bond and they do really connect to them. There's a lot of my OnlyFans creators whose fans send them gifts. They don't just pay money. They don't just swipe their card to, have a video session with the person. They ask, hey, is there an address I can send things to? And they do. They send huge gifts in some cases. In some cases, taking out money they don't have to send these women gifts. And you think, are these guys gross or insane? What's wrong with them? No. These are regular human beings starving for human bond and connection. And the male of the species is generally conditioned that you should do for the female in order to win her affection. And so they do. And they spend tons of money on this, gifting, bonding. And they do create a false narrative in their head where they're like, oh, we're really bonding. But I want to be fair, audience, to the watcher of OnlyFans, the absorber, the audience member, the patron of OnlyFans. I want us to see the humanity of that person. Yes. That they are lonely. Mm-hmm. That they don't. It's very hard to know what part of our bond is real and what part of our bond is not. So I think that's a real thing.
Yeah. A friend of mine just a week or two ago got one of her OnlyFans customers asked, like, what are your measurements?
Yeah,
I'd like to send you a piece of clothing
to wear,
and sent her a very nice, very expensive set of lingerie,
right?
And just asked, like, could you please pose in this the next time we're doing our private session,
right?
And she did, and she was happy to, but yeah, I mean, it was this is probably $1,000 set of lingerie.
I think
and that's not the first ones of those she's gotten. She happened to get one a week or two ago.
Oh,
and we were
all
chatting about it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I just got this really nice set
all the time." And it's like, hey, will you pose in this for me? Which is a special bond. Hey, will you let me see you in this? This is just for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a thing I think I'm glad for this question, because I would love to do a deep dive into the psychology of sexuality, because this is something I think that we don't always understand, especially male sexuality. I think it's lampooned, and we all just kind of say, ha, 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 they're horny, that's all it is. No, male sexuality is very largely based in affirmation. When a female is receptive to a male's sexual advances or flirty or visually trying to catch his attention or, give to him that way, it's very affirming. And males feel like, oh my gosh, I matter. Like, you're doing for me the thing that girls only do when they like you. And even if I'm paying you to do it, it jumps over this rational hurdle in the brain to this primitive place of, hey, you guys are really connecting.
Right.
And she likes you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say,
you feel like you matter.
There are large parts of our brains that do not understand internet interaction.
Right. That cannot understand this is not real.
That lizard brain does not understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The internet evolved way faster than we have.
Yes.
It's more advanced.
And by the way, this is the last point on the content creator side of the spectrum. It's very difficult for their relationships. In each of these cases where I have an OnlyFans creator, they have a relationship in their life. And that relationship was fine with them modeling, fine with them performing, because there was a firewall of intimacy. Yep, and it never bothered them. They were fine with it. They could stomach it. It was okay. And they are struggling with OnlyFans because you know what this guy had for lunch, and you are talking to him, and you are remembering his stories, and you are bonding with him. And then, of course, the content creator is like, no, this is just business. But the boyfriends, a lot of times, most of them are hetero. Sometimes it's a lesbian relationship. But they're saying, I get that. I know that this started off as just business, but I don't think you're trained to know how to put up that firewall to not start bonding in a human way. Because you're just simulating human bonds.
And
nonstop.
by the way, that statement is correct.
It is.
It's
a big
content
thing.
creator. So I have one friend. She was a dancer at. I think it was Spearmint Rhino, which is a large strip club in town here in Vegas. And she was a dancer there and had danced there for a year and a half or so.
Mm-hmm.
And she's married, happily married, has a husband, and started doing OnlyFans during the lockdown because she had no income and didn't have a W-2 job, so didn't have unemployment income even coming in, and so she started doing that. And I think OnlyFans. I think they went up like 800%.
Oh yeah, I know.
Might have been more than that,
where that
during COVID. And yeah, she has talked about that.
Yeah,
she's like, I have regular customers that come to the strip club.
Yeah,
and they get there, they ask for me. I come out, I talk to them, and we have a bond. We have somewhat of a relationship, and my husband doesn't think twice about that because those are regular customers.
Right.
And there is something about going to a building, oftentimes paying a cover, paying an entrance fee.
I'm wearing my uniform.
Yeah,
it also feels like we're here.
Before we
fake name a lot of the times.
All the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the people who are her customers.
Are you telling me no one's actually named Sapphire?
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that. No.
Okay.
I am now, though. But no, I mean, like, the interaction is like, there is a definite business interaction.
It's clear
that happens.
Yeah.
You're walking in, you're paying a cover. You're required to buy drinks.
Right.
You are handing cash to the performer.
Right.
There's all of these interactions that and
they still get blurry.
Yes.
Even with all those
But I'm saying, even
things.
with that, there is still, here are well-defined business interactions.
Right.
OnlyFans, you've entered your credit card one time at the beginning.
Yes.
And now you're just clicking OK on things.
Yep. And it's very quick.
And it's tougher to say, here's where the business interaction happens, and here's where the service that you're getting.
She's literally on her cell phone, talking to these people by text. And if you're a boyfriend, you're like, "Who are you talking to?" Oh, a client.
Yeah. The other thing too is if they're doing that from their home, then now you virtually invited that person.
I was
your home.
I was about to mention that. Yeah,
they're in your
the
life.
client is sitting at home in their PJs.
Right.
They haven't had to get dressed. They haven't had to get in their car and go to the strip club. They haven't had to go to a brothel. They haven't had to do any of those things.
Right.
And it's just like,
if that's your
you
wife,
are now part of a more personal aspect of that client's life as well.
If that's your partner and you're like, hey, I was going to make us some lunch, doing some lunch, and they're like, oh, that'd be great, but first I have to spend an hour simulating sex with this guy across the country. Mm-hmm. But yeah, PB&J would be great. It's just different, and I think as a partner, they've struggled, and so I've seen that behind the scenes too. And the other thing is coming back to the Butters part. There is, I think, if we can. One of the things we try to do on Pod Therapy, and we don't always do a very good job with it, but we invite people to see the really interesting nuance of all the different perspectives in a spectrum, right? So as much as I am defending content creators on OnlyFans, and I think it's been very important for women's economic freedom and a lot of other reasons, can it be predatory? Well, yes.
Of course.
You're selling something that is a human need, and you're doing it in this blurry way that these recipient humans, part of your business model relies on the deception. Part of your business model relies on people abandoning the understanding of the business relationship and becoming intoxicated with you and the connection that you seem to share. And that, can it be predatory? Yes, it can be. And some people become addicted to that.
Well, yeah, and I think any bit of capitalism can be predatory.
Right.
The whole thing's based off predatory behavior.
Sure.
Golf Galaxy is predatory on my insecurity that I can't putt as well as my golfing buddies, and that's why I need this new $400 putter.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But the difference, I think the biggest difference is I understand that.
Right.
As the consumer, I understand what's going on.
It's hard to lose the illusion.
Exactly. And like Jacob said, there's a clear boundary. All these steps are put to reinforce the idea this is a business transaction. Yeah. And then when you slowly start removing those or camouflaging them, then that's where it gets really blurry.
And I think Jacob said something earlier that's very true. I think being Las Vegas people, we were well positioned to understand the OnlyFans concept very naturally. We all have friends that are beautiful bombshell bartenders. And that's part of their business model is they open up their Facebook, they're friends with all their customers, they're constantly inviting people back. Hey, everybody, I'm going to be working this Saturday. Get in here, let's hang out. And it's a simulated friendship, you know, and sometimes simulated, you know, like connection, but that's a business and we get it. And so we've all seen a lot of, you know, people in our community, either dancers or bartenders or cocktail waitresses or performers that have had to walk that fine line. But I think the rest of not Las Vegas, you know, the country, they don't have a lot of experience with this. And so it's very hard to like distinguish what your relationship is with a person.
Yeah. It's
a
tough.
hard thing.
Yeah, that was a good question.
It is.
And there's a question in there that's like, is it good or bad, basically? And I don't think there's a good answer to that.
Yeah, there isn't.
I think there's some people that even if they've blurred the line of their relationship, I think OnlyFans is in some ways getting them through. You know, and it's giving them a human contact that perhaps they need right now. And, you know, can it go too far? Of course it can.
Right.
Therapy can go too far. You know, like, but I mean, that's another thing is like our bond, like at me as a therapist, the old joke with therapy is like, oh, you're like an emotional prostitute or whatever. Like, I get it. Like, that's a fun little cheeky thing. But at the same time, there's so many layers before you walk through the door, virtually or in person, of a therapist, where you had to sign and consent to understanding what we do and what this dynamic is, that we don't have the same challenges. Like, because we're your healthcare provider, you know that. And if we bond with you, it's very genuine because that's what we're here. We're here to, like, there's no illusion of what I am in your life. We both know I'm your therapist.
I bet there is. I bet more of that exists than you think it does.
I think it. Here's where I think it's different.
It's not the same thing.
It's not even close. Yeah,
No,
my relationship to a patient can become extremely friendly, organic, and genuine. None of that's fake. I don't depend on those devices being like, I don't depend on artful deception to do what I do. That's the difference between OnlyFans' relationship with their patients and me. Like, obviously, these are not patients.
But if that person then starts calling you at 8:30 p.m.
Right, we have our boundaries. And
says, you know, Jim, we got to hang out.
Right.
And you say, no, we're not going to hang out. That's inappropriate. Right. And here are the reasons that's inappropriate. And you explain it to them very kindly and very graciously. I bet there is still...
They might be a little stubbed. Yeah, but here's the difference. In the OnlyFans world or the performing world...
this is a lesser degree.
Yeah, the difference is and I've had this happen. I've had a patient whose OnlyFans audience did that, reached out and said, hey, I'm going to be in this town. You said you're going to be in this town. I'd really like to have dinner with you. We could do this publicly. Please, please, please. It's hard because that is the relationship you have with that audience member.
Right.
They are actually in the stream that you have created. It's just, it's too close to your truth to be comfortable. For me, whenever you jump out of that lane and you're like, hey, we should go get a beer sometime, you're leaving the stream we created initially. And so when I rope you back into our stream and say, no, we are absolutely friendly and our relationship is organic, but I can't get a beer with you, you know, okay, I'm pulling you back into our original and true relationship.
Is that why we haven't gone out for a beer lately?
Well, ever since you started seeing me as a patient, I feel like I can't go out for beers with you anymore.
Nick, you're the one that took the case all the time.
You took the case. Yeah.
You bastard.
This is a really good question.
You're going to say that in front of me?
Yeah. Well, he brings coffee cake for everybody. So that works.
Fine.
But we should move on. Great question to the writer. And it's something I want to dive deeper into in the future. I think I'd like to see more questions like this.
My wife, SJ, was just the other day watching a documentary on OnlyFans. I think it's on Hulu.
Okay.
And I was only able to watch about 10 minutes of it with her. But the chunk that I watched was really interesting.
Oh, wow.
So I'd recommend, if you're curious about it and want to learn more about it, maybe check that doc out. Maybe check out that doc. I believe on Hulu.
Onlyfans.com/podtherapy. We have some really great stuff up there. Nick's swimsuit calendar's coming out this year. It's going to be really good.
There is on the doc that I saw. There was one comedian. He used to be on the Chappelle Show all the time, and he has an OnlyFans show.
Oh, there you go.
That he's doing. It's a comedy show.
There you go.
It's not sexual at all.
There is a lot on there that's non-sexual, but
I don't know that I'd say a lot.
Some you could probably find it, but
a non-zero number.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about sexuality, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about dating a sex offender. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Elio Dare, Judy Schneider, Mason Miller, and Leon Kassab. Would you like to sponsor a show? Become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. This week's trivia theme in honor of our therapy producers is about Foreign Language Week. Did you know the first week of March is Foreign Language Week?
Yeah.
Of course, we all knew that. So here's the question. What is the most popular language on the continent of Africa?
African.
If you would like to join the therapy producers
Nailed it.
and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
Come on, Tangeman, you got to get better at this, buddy. I'm just swatting them out of the air now. You're just lobbing these at the net, and I'm just jumping and smacking them into the stands.
Yes.
Bam!
You're nailing it.
Africanese. Final answer.
The most popular language on the continent of Africa.
I do have a legitimate guess, but
Okay.
I'm going to let
What's your
Jacob go
legit
first.
guess?
I think it's French.
Okay.
It's not a bad guess.
I don't
not
think
a
it's a
bad
bad
guess.
guess.
I'm gonna guess English.
Ooh.
No,
all
also
right.
not a bad guess.
What was it? Was it-
Arabic.
Oh,
Oh.
come on.
Arabic. Yes.
Come on.
That's
Yeah,
you got-
I'm mad
you
at
got-
how much sense that makes.
yeah.
Like, obviously.
But French actually was a good guess.
French is good
because
Thank
guess.
you. Thank you. I
gotta
felt like
say.
that was a solid
You're
one.
not as dumb as you look.
Well,
Agree to disagree.
you knock it off. You. All right, we've
If
got
you
a...
were, you couldn't put pants on.
That's right. All right. He looks exactly like the kind of guy who doesn't know how pants work. All right. So before we jump into the next one, folks, I'm going to issue a rare disclaimer. So if you're just passively listening to this in your car and you've got family in the car or you've got kids around, listen to this part, please. Attention, attention, attention. Before I read this next letter, I'm giving you a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about some things that are not appropriate for any audience member under 18 years old. Do not let children listen to this. It does contain some really, really sensitive stuff. Okay?
At the very least, listen to it yourself first.
Yes.
And then let the kiddos listen if you
Very
if you
unlikely.
so choose.
Yeah, that's right. But anybody under 18 should not listen to this part. So go ahead and stop here and come back to this as a grown-up
that goes
later.
for our show altogether.
Yeah, as a general rule. I was horrified to discover that sometimes our show just plays in people's cars when they're taking kids to school, and I'm like, what? It is marked explicit.
I'm going to say horrible things during this next
Yeah. This is now when we can be completely unfiltered. So, yep, trigger warning. And if you are triggered by things sexually that are, if you've survived trauma or things like that, this might not be a segment for you at all. So maybe just go ahead and bounce and come back at the end, okay? All right, here's the letter. It's a long one, so stay with me because I think it's important to get it all out there. Hey guys, I can't believe I'm writing this, or that I'm in this situation, but I need some outside perspective here. Buckle up, here we go. I am recently single after being with my husband for almost 20 years. I felt ready to start dating and have met a couple of guys who were perfectly nice but no sparks. Then I met this guy. He's cute, funny, smart, insightful, and kind. We hit it off immediately. We have so much to talk about. The same sense of humor and a great physical connection. He's wonderful. Except this, after a ton of texting and a couple of dates, I found out he is a sex offender. He was convicted of possessing child pornography more than 15 years ago. He explained that at the time he was much younger and obsessed with porn. He was trading photos with people on the internet and saw one of a teen, then started looking at younger and younger people. He said it was brief, he didn't have many photos, and it freaked him out at the time because he knew it was gross and wrong. But he felt sort of out of control. He stopped and he deleted all the pics he had, but soon after, the FBI was knocking on his door. He went to prison. He completed sex offender treatment while he was there, and has now been on probation for over a decade without a single problem or violation. He still sees a therapist weekly. He has a young child from a previous girlfriend and a great relationship with both the child and the ex. He takes care of his parents, and he runs a successful business. I confirmed a lot of the details of what he told me with some internet sleuthing, and I've had the pleasure of spending time with him and with his family. Obviously, this revelation was a shock, but at the same time, I feel like this is something he did over 15 years ago, not the definition of who he is. He accepts complete responsibility for what he did and has done everything right to deal with it since. I feel like he's showing me who he is now, and I like this person very much, but it's complicated. He's still on the sex offender registry, though he's at the lower risk level and will be for several more years. He's still on probation for several more years too, so he can't be unsupervised around my kids or any others, which is fine. After all, I'm not hiring him as a babysitter here. But it's awkward as a practical matter. And as much as I really, really like him and sincerely believe he's a good person, I wonder if my judgment is clouded a little bit by the fact that I'm only recently single, or by the fact that I actually dealt with sex offenses and accused offenders for many years. First as a sex crimes prosecutor, and later with college students, but those who experienced and allegedly perpetrated sexual and dating violence were people I've met. I feel like I am walking into this relationship slowly, with my eyes wide open, and with more understanding, compassion, and value for the basic human dignity of people involved in these matters because of my background. But what if it's actually that I'm just desensitized to these offenses after so much exposure to them? Should I be reacting differently to this revelation? Like, should I be running in the other direction? I was struggling to sort through and process all of this, so I told my therapist about it last week. Hoping we could discuss it, I was shocked by her reaction. She freaked out, said I'm not thinking straight, that I'm being irresponsible, and that I'm much more vulnerable after losing my husband than I realized. Every time I started to explain my thought process, she interrupted and told me I was rationalizing. She even raised her voice. I felt attacked and judged and was deeply shaken by the conversation. I mostly trust her and appreciate her help and perspective, but this encounter felt totally different, almost like she had mistaken me for one of her own children or something and was scolding me. It was awful. I had a panic attack afterward and was a mess the rest of the afternoon and evening. I'm dreading our next meeting. Other people's opinion isn't going to make or break my decision to stay in this relationship, but if that's how a therapist reacted, I can only imagine how my own family and friends will react if this guy and I get more serious and they learn of his history. After that, I'm even more concerned about my own assessment of the situation. Am I underreacting here? Any feedback or insight that you guys can provide would be so helpful, because the more I think about it, the more confused I become. Thanks, guys. Anonymous.
All right. There's a lot to unpack here.
There is.
Yeah.
So, number one, there's the therapist's response that we should probably address. Number two, we should probably talk about sex offender treatment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then thirdly, we should talk about your involvement in this relationship and where do you go from here?
Yeah.
Which one do you guys want to start with?
Oh, and I want to talk about the previous job.
Yeah.
Where they worked,
Just so
where they
happens-
dealt with some sex offenders.
That's
Right.
huge. Yeah, that's a huge
that
component of
That was
this.
the most shocking part of the whole email to
I
me.
know.
Oh, really?
That was a big
Yeah.
twist.
Oh.
Well, obviously, it's one thing to date a sex offender. It's another one to be like, I'm one of the few humans who has extensive work with
Yeah.
them.
Right.
Like, wow.
Well,
You're
Like
well
me
positioned.
as a podcast host and a theatrical technician, I don't deal directly with sex offenders.
Right.
At the very least, not in
Knowingly.
their capacity of being a sex offender.
I see what you're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
Like it, and that does influence your opinion.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I'm tying that in with my third point.
All right, go to number
Okay.
one. Go ahead.
Okay, therapist reaction.
Yes.
Okay. Number one, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate.
That definitely sucks.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate that happens, and there's a couple reasons why this could happen, and we would just be speculating, all right?
Yeah.
But just to kind of open the curtain behind therapy and how this
Mm-hmm.
works, or should work, or sometimes doesn't work. We are human beings as well, and sometimes there are things that trigger us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I feel like I am a really, really good therapist.
Yeah. No, full stop.
Period. In
That's
a
true.
sense.
Yeah, you are.
Anybody else have anything they want to say?
No, that was
okay. No.
So anyway,
all.
we're moving on to the
All
next
right,
trivia question.
Okay. No, but I always feel like I've had really good boundaries, and I take good care of myself emotionally and mentally to separate and draw a firewall between my world and my world as a therapist. But there are things that have triggered me. There was one thing I remember that happened several years ago, and it had to do with the treatment of an animal.
Mm-hmm.
And it stuck with me, and it hit me hard, and I had an emotional reaction in that moment that I would never have predicted would have happened. It wasn't. it was something, fortunately for me, it was something that I used to be able to bond with the client, as opposed to something that I scolded the client. Like it didn't become hostile. Like we found a common ground there.
But it shook you.
But the thing that was the thing that surprised me is I was strongly affected by that way more than I thought I would, because I love animals and I have dogs, you know. So anyway,
this, by the way, might be a bit of the reverse of what we talked about in the last segment. The therapist taking the relationship to a different level than the client.
Yeah, exactly.
We call that countertransference.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's possible that could have happened.
Yes.
The other thing I think that sometimes happens is therapists need to be able to set up boundaries, but sometimes you get really close to individuals, and sometimes you almost kind of start seeing them, especially if there's an age difference.
Yeah.
You start seeing them as children.
Right.
Or sometimes parents, depending on how that works. You know, when I was working with adolescents, I had really good boundaries with all of those clients, but there were some times that I had to catch myself.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, I'm not their parent.
Right.
I'm their therapist, you know?
Yeah.
But it's hard dealing with teens because you know that they need guidance.
Yeah.
And you kind of start seeing yourself in that role. And it takes a lot of discipline to be able to draw those boundaries.
It does. Yeah. And one other thing I want to add on that, in the next Patreon, we record 2 episodes a day whenever we do our Sundays. And we're going to record our next Patreon after we wrap this show. I'm going to go on a rant about bad therapists. I've recently discovered that they exist. And I think I was blind for a long time and thought, everybody's really good at this. And then discovered, holy God, some of you guys should never have taken this job.
Jim's rationalizations are like my favorite segments.
It's getting unreal. So in this case, I guess to the writer, there's something that's happening here that's tricky. On one hand, I agree with your therapist. On the other hand, I don't. And
I was
probably
I
think
was
of the
going to
same
go
thing.
the same route, but go ahead.
So one thing that we do not like therapists to do, if I was this therapist supervisor and I heard this case or I saw the video of this session, I would pull them aside and I'd say, hey, let's talk about values imposition. Okay, values imposition is whenever you start putting your personal moral values onto a patient, subtly, directly, or indirectly, where you're telling them how they should believe. The judgment of dating a sex offender that is not posing a threat to the patient's family right now or anything like that, that is a moral value judgment. You're saying this person is a problem. I think this, that, and the other thing. That would be the same thing as if somebody said, and I've had this happen, I'm dating an exotic dancer, I'm dating a sex worker, I'm dating a performer. And if I jumped out of my chair and was like, that's terrible, what are you doing? That's gross. Okay, yeah, I'm imposing values from my moral bank onto you, and I should never do that.
Still not as bad as dating an audio guy.
Yeah, don't ever do that. No,
I would not
never
recommend
talk to those guys.
Unless you want to have a great life.
Ladies. So that part of it is icky to me. I don't like seeing the therapist react that way.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I reserve the right to have big reactions to some patients' life choices if I feel my reaction is the only thing that can give them perspective. Because sometimes in life, we've gotten like you might have somebody that's dating a drug dealer. And this is not the same thing, but let's use that example. I've had that happen where they're like, well, I come from a world where that's not weird, right? But I live in a different world than you. And as a healthcare provider, my reaction gives you perspective sometimes. And I might go, oh, wow, that's really startling, you know, or I'll give you a little bit of my human reaction to that to give you perspective. So you'll go, oh, yeah, it is strange that I'm dating a drug dealer, isn't it? Huh. Okay, let's talk about that, right? And that's a jarring device that I'm using to generate insight. But it must be executed very carefully because I need to be careful not to wield value imposition into that too.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to get at too, is that the therapist's reaction, although inappropriate, does not invalidate her concern.
Sure.
So the therapist may actually have some legitimate concerns about what is going on.
Right.
Because one of the things that I'm hearing you say, writer, is I was in a relationship with my husband for 20 years.
Yep.
It recently ended.
Yeah.
Now I'm in this relationship, and I don't see any problems.
Yeah.
Right?
And they didn't say why the relationship ended, right?
Right. Didn't say why the
We
relationship
don't know if there
ended.
was a death. We don't know if this was divorce.
Because the
Correct.
therapist mentioned something about losing the husband and grieving.
Correct.
Right.
And writer did say they've been dating.
Right. And we don't know how long the writer has really had time to themselves.
Sure.
To grieve that loss.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that most everybody on earth can relate to, I can definitely relate to this, having a long-term relationship end suddenly
Yeah.
and jumping into the next one
Yeah.
with somebody who it just doesn't
not a good
make
fit.
any sense and
Yeah.
it doesn't fit at all. But in that moment, you're so comfortable and secure with just having a relationship that you overlook other things that would have been deal breakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not to say anything about this individual being a sex offender.
Right. We haven't even gotten to that yet.
Yeah, throw that completely out of the equation. Just
No.
look at it as it being, inequality.
So the therapist
Right.
could be reacting to that. So
Right.
First point, therapist reaction.
I also want to know how long this person and this therapist have had their relationship.
Good point. Yeah.
Yes.
Like if this is a new therapist, okay, that's one thing. If this is a therapist you've been seeing for 10 years and really knows you,
Yeah.
I'm going to look at that a little differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last point on that before we get to the second point you had, Nick, when you're going back to your therapist writer, which by now I'm sure you probably already have, it's okay to let a therapist know, hey, I felt a little anxious for our meeting today. That's okay to tell me.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I would say, oh, wow, what's going on? Well, last time I know I told you about this, and I know that there was a big discussion about it, and you're kind of my safe place, and I guess I just felt a little intimidated.
Felt
So-
a little attacked.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
tell me that as a therapist, and you know what? I'll receive that. That's not putting me on blast. It's not calling
Yeah.
me bad at my job. You're just telling me the emotion I made you feel.
Yeah.
Thank
Maybe
you.
don't do it on Yelp.
Yeah. Don't do that. On Yelp. Yeah, don't have that conversation on Yelp. But yeah. So anyway, it's okay to tell your therapist that. So I
Yeah,
just want to
and
make
that
that
could
point.
that could lead to some really good growth.
Yeah.
Yes.
in that relationship.
And I think they
So,
can receive it. They'll hear you and go,
Absolutely.
"Oh, thank you for telling me that. I don't
Yeah.
want you to feel unsafe with me. I'm sorry I had a human reaction. Let's talk more about it."
Right.
Great. That's
Yep.
you guys doing good work.
Yeah.
Now we kind of tied in the second thing, which was the point about the ending of the relationship.
Right.
That was my second point.
Okay.
So kind of the third point then really has to do with specifically dating a sex offender.
Yes.
Or kind of getting into that relationship. So one thing that I want to relay to the audience, if you remember back to it's got to be like episode 3 or 4 or something like that. We had Whitney Lewis, one of my friends.
Oh yeah,
the show.
yeah.
And
She works
she-
with JSOs.
Yeah, she did at the time. So JSO, juvenile sex offenders.
Yeah.
So we actually kind of talked about that because this is one of those areas that the average person, when they hear sex offender, that is like,
Yeah, Nazi.
you're right. It's like
Uh-huh.
one of the worst things you could possibly hear. Like
Right.
that
Right.
is absolutely horrible. And
Yeah.
that has been one of the biggest issues is working through that stigma to be able to treat it. Right.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that people kind of get hung up on is like, okay, you do that act, you're done.
Right.
Like the rest of your life. You know,
Um,
and you say, oh, I went to treatment for it. And they're like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever. That
nobody
means
cares.
nothing to me
Yeah.
that you went to treatment for it. Right. But one thing that's really interesting is that treatment for sex offenders is very effective.
Yeah.
And research has shown that there's a significant drop in recidivism
Yes.
when you compare sex offenders who have received treatment from those who have not.
Right.
And not only that, but when you compare that group to other groups as far as recidivism rates
right.
for other crimes.
Like drug offenses.
Or,
yeah.
other crimes. But not only that, but when you compare it to relapse rates
Right.
for mental health symptoms
Very low.
and substance use disorder symptoms.
Yeah.
As an addictions professional,
Mm-hmm.
I wish our
Yeah.
treatment was as effective
Yeah.
as sex offender treatment.
Oh, yeah,
I wish we
absolutely.
had those results.
Right.
That's something that everybody needs to understand is that treatment does actually mean something, and
Yes.
treatment has been shown to be effective for it.
Absolutely.
Does that mean that the person will never reoffend?
No.
Of course
Yeah.
not. No one's ever going to say that. But there is an effectiveness to it.
But we need to sprinkle that clinical perspective
Exactly.
and help the writer know that.
And I think for that reason, the writer may, having had just dipped her toe into this
Right.
a little bit and understanding a little bit of that world, maybe it doesn't shock her as much as the average person
Right.
that she would be dating a sex offender because maybe she's aware of this,
Sure.
right? So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe
Probably
that plays
does.
into it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really hard thing, and I wanted to speak a little bit about the concept of a sex offender. So just recently, I had a patient, and I've worked with a lot of these folks, because I also kind of work a lot in sexual addiction, pornography addiction, things like that, and so there can be some cross-pollination here onto this other side of the road. And it's a really interesting reality. I had a person in recent history, a patient who had said, I'm really becoming passionate about advocating for mental health. I feel like I am fully recovered from my bad behaviors. I see myself as so fundamentally different. I think I'm ready to come out. I think I want to come out to society and tell them I was sex addicted. There was bad things that happened as part of that. I have gotten help. You can get help too. And so we had to have a really big conversation about this. Because, again, I'm not here to impose values, but I had to talk through this person's life very carefully and help them understand. We had to have a hard talk, and I had to say something very real to them, where I said, right now, in the age we live in, mental health is being destigmatized. There are more mental health influencers, tribute bands, dedications, discussion, bills being passed than ever before. It is finally okay to talk about it. And that also includes addiction. It's better than it's ever been. Still has a long way to go. Dealing with addiction stigma, people can come out now on Facebook and say, everybody, I've never told you this. I've been an alcoholic for years. Today is my 80th day sober, and the comments will be 800 long. Every single person, praise hands, great job. Oh my God. You can't do that with sex. You can't. Society can't.
It just doesn't happen the same way.
It does not happen the same way. They do not look at you and say, oh my God, you were sex addicted. You were, under this compulsion cycle. You broke free. Mental health matters. Wave the flag. We're all in this together. No. Sex is scary to especially American audiences. There is something different about this that they cannot comprehend. And so I had to warn this person, when you let that genie out of the bottle, you can never get it back. You can never undo that, and you will be, I think, devastated to discover how little support, pity, or empathy you receive when you come out about your struggle and recovery. Nobody will care. And that, by the way, is a really significant thing. When I've worked with sex offenders, when I've worked with the sex addicted, suicidality is extremely high as a risk because there is no way out. They can't talk to their spouse about it. They can't talk to their family about it. They feel scared to talk to a therapist about it. Look how her therapist reacted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
These people are not under any illusions that they are considered a monster, even though an appetite inside of them got out of their ability to control and caused trouble, which a drug addict could relate to, or an alcoholic could relate to, or a gambling addict could relate to. There is no sympathy or concern for them. And we've actually institutionalized a punishment system that disproportionately reacts to the crimes committed and is permanent. And nobody even questions that. There's an entire, I'm not a lawyer, I like lawyer stuff. There's an entire separate conversation in the world about whether permanent branding as a sex offender is cruel and unusual punishment in the eyes of the Constitution. We don't have anything else in society that works like this, where you're permanently branded and ostracized and you have to announce yourself to other people by something that you once did. There just isn't another thing that's similar to that.
There was something in the note that made it sound like the person was coming off of the sex offender registry.
They've been on probation for a long time. It's very hard to get off of it.
States are different. Right. And so there are, depending on what the crime is, there's a certain set amount of time.
And it's difficult in states because a lot of times it requires state legislature or governor approval. And no politician has ever in the history of America ever been incentivized to do justice to a sex offender because your opponent is waiting for that.
Right.
So they can run that ad. Don't vote for Tangeman for governor. He pardons sex offenders.
Right.
And nothing else works that way. If you said he pardoned people who defrauded companies in bankruptcy.
No one cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody walks away from that clutching their pearls. But if you use the sex word, you're done. Even though sex offense could be peeing on the side of the road.
Right.
That could be your offense.
Right.
Or it could be hurting somebody. Or in this person's case, it was watching things you should not watch and possessing material you should not possess. It's a long spectrum. But anyway, I just wanted to gripe about that because I appreciate the demographic. I've had to work with them. I've had to work through my own feelings about that to make sure I can still be really good as a clinician. So sex offenders are humans. And I guess the last thought I want to say on this is, if you are a listener and you are struggling with compulsive sexual behaviors that are getting to illegal zones that are dangerous to you, there is help. Get on Google, look up Sex Addicts Anonymous or Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, SAA or SLAA. There is a chapter somewhere near you, or there are virtual chapters. It is okay to get help. There are great books about this. SLAA has the big pink book, the big pink and white book. You can get that on Amazon. Get help. You do not have to live in that insanity cycle. You can look up a therapist in your area. If they tell you they can't work with you, that's okay. Move to the next one. But do not give up. Do not throw away your life. Do not believe that these problems are insurmountable. all things can be dealt with, all things and all humans deserve help. And that just is what you need. You need help. So I want to humanize you.
Just generally, everything online, everything on your phone, nothing is anonymous.
Right. Be careful.
Don't fool yourself into thinking. My point is to back up what Jim just said and find that help. I mean, work. Right. It might take some work, but work to get yourself that help. Don't fool yourself into thinking, oh, I can just do this.
No. Yeah.
I can just dip this toe in, and no one will ever know, because they will. It will be found out.
It's better that you get help.
There is no such thing as anonymity on the internet, and go get the help.
So, lastly, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
So, I guess my thought on this for the writer, the situation that you're in, one of the benefits in this situation is it sounds like this relationship is fairly new. And you don't have to commit to anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think the big thing is as long as you are safe and you have a clear understanding and awareness of what it would look like if you needed to get out of this relationship. As long as you've got that, I don't see any reason why you couldn't just kind of stay in this and take things slow and see where it goes. My biggest fear would be for individuals that get into a relationship where they don't have a clear understanding of when I need to get out.
Right.
Because if you don't already have that understanding of this is what it looks like, then that means that you drive right past that exit without recognizing it.
Right.
And then you get too far into it.
Yeah.
But if you feel safe and you have, and you're okay, and you know that, okay, I know I need to get out of this relationship when X, Y, and Z happens, if you've got that clear picture and you're just taking things slow, you don't have to commit to anything.
Yeah.
And let me voice one of those things that the writer, I would bet a lot, already knows, but just so one of us has voiced it. If it means that your children are in any way unsafe,
right?
Yeah,
that of course is a
Deal
huge
breaker.
nope.
Yeah.
Bail. Time to pull the cord. We're out.
Yep.
I mean that's a big one, and that is, I would guess, a large part of people telling you, maybe your therapist telling you, maybe whoever else you've spoken to about this. Shock that you would wade into this, which I can understand from their point of view as well.
Right.
I mean, I get it. I understand what you're saying, writer. But at the same time, I do understand. I empathize a little bit with the people who are saying, possibly, why would you even go down this road?
It's a significant hurdle. The pros have to outbalance that big con,
and they may.
Right.
They really may. And this is not to say that, and I mean, you've been dating. I'm sure that this is a thought that you have dwelt on with some regularity. You're bringing a stranger into your children's lives as well as your own,
right?
And that's already a big hurdle for someone who's not on the sex offender registry,
right?
And then you're adding that as well.
Right. Yeah.
I mean that I understand where people come from when they say, why would you even do this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. They're thinking, is it worth all this hassle?
On the other hand, I want to believe, and I do believe, that people can come back from mistakes.
Right, sure.
Yeah. I want to believe that people who go to prison for any crime can be rehabilitated and come back from those things.
And if people can't change, we're in the wrong goddamn industry.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Sure hope they can.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, my advice is...
So, like, in a way, I want to root for the person. I want to root for the guy that you're dating. Like,
rooting for change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just be careful, which is the same advice I would give anybody starting any new relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but thanks for writing in. This is a great question. And it's something
gave
to
us
think
an
about.
opportunity to humanize a very complicated conversation. And I think talk about your perspective, your therapist's perspective, and also the humanity of this individual. I like questions like this. They're very difficult. I really want to see you mend that relationship with your therapist. I really want that human to be close in your guidance with this. And I guess the key, I know the therapist doesn't listen to this show, but if you're out there, therapist, what I would say to you as a colleague is I would say your best value to helping your patient in this situation is giving them a safe Rogerian space to contemplate their truth without fear.
Yep.
If you can create that, you've given them such a gift to workshop their best ideas.
In layman's terms, dial it back a bit.
Dial it back. Dial it back. Be neutral. Don't impose values. And, hopefully this restores the relationship and they can go forward.
I think that's wonderful advice if it is if it's already a set relationship between this person and their therapist.
Yeah.
What if, because we don't know, what if this is a new relationship between this person and their therapist? What do you think then?
I would give the same advice because I do really believe that resolving conflict is the fastest way to establish a good rapport.
Yeah.
Great.
I agree.
Okay, great.
And I've done this too, where like I've had really bad first sessions or second sessions,
right.
but us being able to sit and have an open dialogue about it
Opens it up.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things. Actually, Matt had talked about it on ICS in one episode. This phenomenon of where when you complain, if you're at a restaurant and you complain and you get good customer service, you get a better response.
You're more likely to go back to that restaurant.
Exactly. Than you would if you just had a good response to start with.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of the same philosophy in establishing rapport with a client.
I agree. And actually, in the next, like I teased earlier, in the next Patreon, I'm going to go on a rant about lots of bad therapists. And if there's one thing that's taught me, it's that if you have somebody that's like 60% of what you're looking for, you may have found a gem. Like, you gotta dig in, figure out a way through the problems, because this might be the best it's going to get.
I hate to constantly be pushing the Patreon, but Jim's rants are really worth $1.
I'd say they're worth $1. That feels right. Yeah, no, that feels right.
Again, agree
they're
to
priced
disagree.
to sell. Yeah, they're market price. Yeah, they're right there at 99 cents.
They're priced right.
Yeah, they're priced right where they should be.
Yeah.
Great question, writer.
I would say that oftentimes Nick and my reaction to Jim's rants is worth $1.
Is worth $1.
I think that's what I meant.
Yeah, that's probably where it's going with that. That's probably where it's going. Yeah. So great question, writer. We're over time, so we're going to let that be the end of that. But rooting for you, my friend, and glad you're thinking about it. I appreciate you being in the nuance and complexity of this. I think that honors your truth, and so good for you. But proceed with caution. Get good advisors in your life. Look for red flags if you need to. And you take it slow. You take it at your own pace. Okay?
And I applaud you giving somebody a chance.
Yeah.
I bet you're a good person.
Yeah. And the fact that you've got this lived experience lets you humanize a person more so than the general public could. Yeah. I don't think that's a disadvantage. I don't think that blinds you. I think that actually removes the blinders and gives you better perspective. Doesn't mean that this is Mr. Right. And that's sometimes a challenge, is whenever you overcome so much to give somebody a chance, you feel more invested in them than perhaps you should be, for where you guys are actually at. Because you've already had to do so much to get there.
When the relationship doesn't work out just for normal reasons.
Right.
Don't hold on to it because you've overcome other things.
Oh, you listen to Pod Therapy? All right, no, I can't be a part of that.
Yeah.
It's toxic. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're wrapping up the show and thanking our Patreons. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Elio Dare, Judy Schneider, Mason Miller, and Leon Kassab. Would you like to sponsor the show and become a therapy producer? Go to patreon.com/therapy. And our second question, in honor of our therapy producers, having to do with Foreign Language Week, is, by the order of number of native speakers, the 3 most popular languages in the world are Chinese, Spanish, and English. Name the next 3.
Oh, God.
If you would like to join the therapy producers and make the show possible, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
I believe it's pronounced Mandarin.
Pure number of people who speak the language.
The number
Chinese.
of native speakers. Yes.
Which I guess is Mandarin and Cantonese.
Native speakers. Chinese is put all together.
All
yes.
right. And then Spanish.
So Chinese, Spanish, English.
And
what
then
are the next 3?
4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
All right, I'm throwing out French because I just feel like they did a lot of colonizing and they had their heyday and everything was French. French was like the business language for a long time. So I think French.
Do you think that's number 4?
I do.
Do we need them in order?
I think it's number 4.
No, I'll just give you the next 3.
Okay. So you think...
Are there even 6 languages?
I believe so, yeah.
I think
there's like 5.5.
Yeah, that's probably...
Okay, so American Sign Language.
Oh, yeah. We should get Arabic in there, since we know that it dominates a continent.
Arabic is my definite answer.
Okay.
I don't hate French.
Australian. It's not English, guys. Let's not pretend like it is. They know.
No, English was already in the top 3.
I know.
I will guess.
But Australian is not English.
I'm gonna piggyback on Jim's logic a little bit here.
Go with France.
And I'm gonna guess Arabic, French, and Portuguese.
Oh, yeah. I concede. All 3 of those. I want the same one. Sign me up.
Okay. You only got 1 right.
Was it Portuguese?
Wow. Okay. It was Arabic.
Arabic was the correct answer.
Yeah.
So the order goes
All right,
Chinese.
hold on. Let me think again here.
Okay.
So Arabic is the one that I was sure of.
Oh, I didn't feel great about that.
Arabic is 5th.
Portuguese felt like a slam dunk. And it's not French?
Portuguese
No.
I just went with because of the same colonization stuff.
Yeah.
But it's been a while.
Oh my god.
You're forgetting a big one.
I mean, Brazil's like one of the most populated countries on Earth.
Oh, Russian.
No.
Russian not on the list.
No.
What?
Not in the top 6. No.
German?
Wow.
You think it's German? That can't be popular. German, French,
Japanese.
Oh, that would be bullshit.
Nope.
Okay. We already said Spanish.
This is fun.
Dude, French has got to be
French
up there.
is not.
What is it?
Huh.
Okay.
Well, give me a hint for the big one.
Yeah, give me this a big one.
Gandhi.
Indian. But they speak English.
No.
That's at Sin City Shrink.
Yep.
What, did I
On
get
Twitter.
it wrong? Is that not true?
They speak
First of all, you
I've
said
seen
Indian.
Slumdog
They speak
Millionaire.
Indian. And they would know which is wrong.
Oh, okay.
And the second thing I already forgot.
Well, what's their language called?
Hindi.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Chinese, Spanish, English. 1,
Okay.
2, 3.
Yeah.
Hindi,
Hindi's number 4.
Arabic, Bengali.
Bengali.
Oh, I would not have gotten Bengali
I
in
would not
1,000
have.
So
years.
tigers?
Yes,
The
yes,
language
tiger.
of the
Bengal
tiger.
tigers?
Yes,
Yes.
that's
They
it.
have a language?
That's
Yes.
what they're saying. Exactly.
That's probably a pretty cool language.
Now, 7 through 10 are Portuguese,
Ah,
There it is.
Russian,
Russian.
Japanese,
oh.
and Landa.
Dude, where is French?
Not in the top 10. Now, here's the thing. This is what's interesting. This is
Wow.
by number of native speakers.
Okay.
If you go by total number of speakers,
Yes.
the order changes a little bit.
Okay.
So it goes Chinese,
Yeah.
Spanish, English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So those
then it
three
goes
stay the same.
Yep. Hindi, Arabic, Bengali. Wait, is this the same list?
Looks like it is.
Seems like the same list.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I wrote the same list twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Good
But-
job.
So trust us that it changes a little bit.
Yeah. We'll
Just
take it
so-
on the
yeah.
honor system.
No, but French was in that
Oh,
one.
well done,
Okay.
Bengal Tigers.
It was in. I got that from
Well,
Babbel.
I feel like French. Yeah, I agree with you. Like the native speakers of French, sure, not a
believe
ton.
I didn't think of Hindi.
But it's got to be
yeah,
a universal.
That was the one I thought you guys would get.
I just feel like it's one of those mediator languages that like everybody in Europe knows, and so people that speak French, I think, is high.
Yeah.
But I agree, it's probably.
But it's native language, yeah.
Yeah. We're at the end of the show. We need to thank our Patreons who support us at patreon.com/therapy. This is the first episode of the month. Oh, by the way, patrons, first week of March, go into the Patreon if you haven't seen it. There's going to be an interview posted between me and Devaraj. Devaraj is a chief financial officer for a hospital system here in Las Vegas. He's been a CFO for multiple hospitals. We talk about the Hospital Transparency Act, which requires hospitals to post a menu of their services and their prices online. We also talk about healthcare finance and how to get a better deal on your healthcare bills. So go to patreon.com/therapy. That's going to air this week. That's our monthly interview. But we also want to thank all of our theropods who are supporting the show. We want to thank Scott Ashlock, Ian Soto, Lauren Dotson, Jessica Cyphers, Rocco, Heather, Adam Petenuzzo, nailed it. Mats Lenegren, I have the neck. Take It EV podcast. Lauren Izzo and the Hizzo and the Mouthy Broad cast. I like that show. Chelsea Lamb, Felicia Butler, David Sorensen, Todd Canfield, Elliot Lamb, Matthew Nair, Adam Rabiznik, spelt just like it sounds, Jim Hunter, Katie Chiwakowski. Did I get it? I feel like I got it.
I think
James
pretty
K,
close.
Chelsea, Saracen, Scoopy, Jess, John, Don Dorr, Scoopatron, Frozen Cusser, Richard Bruins, Joseph Pengrazio, Carrie Terhark, Brooks Lyle, Tracy Replogle, a.k.a. my mom, Craig Little, Gavin Bristow, Sundog, Brad Kefauver, Scoopaholic, Jeffrey Ackerman, Three Scoops a Lady, Kate Keller, Scoopstronaut, Lori Eltzroth, Ian Whitefall, Stacy Westerlin, thanks for the stuff, Stace, Stacy Coleman, Dan Martin, Linda Brandmeier, and Corey Owens.
And thank you to our pterodactyls, Lauren, Ryan Stewart, Rachel Dusto, Slurpikaye Motherfucker, Angie Ellis, Andrea Anderson, Cindy Ash, Lindsay Bashara, Fred Bashara Jr., David Pollock, Ice Blue Scoop, Tess Miller, Scott Brady, Brian Lehman, and Robert Paulson.
And of course, we need to thank our elite Saccharin 16, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Ther Producers. We're talking about Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Elio Dare, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Banana Scoop, Mason Miller, Scott Jameson, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Reverend Scoop Kevin, and Malaya.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
and why wouldn't you?
And enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening the episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided in your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
You want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week. I think.
I mean, that was an okay episode.
Yeah.
But I mean,
not close to the ones
episode
that I'm not
before.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just
164.
It was solid.
There was something
It
about
was
it.
solid.
Something special that I think
chemistry
came out of that. Yeah.
I can't wait for your interview because.
with Devo?
Because I'm not going to listen to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, you're missing out. That's a good one. He does all the talking.
I don't know. Maybe.